Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio, and today is a good day, because today we've got a new GX to talk about, and it's always a good day when we've got a new GX to talk about. Today, it is the debut of Palossand GX, one of the more fun and inventive new Pokemon from the most recent Sun and Moon games. Now, this is being a promo given out at tournaments in Japan, which means that when it comes out in US, Europe, etc., it is going to be in its own promo box, just like Lycanroc, the first Lycanroc, the midday form was, and just like our boy Beware was. Now, being a fighting Pokemon means that it's hitting a good weakness against things like Zoroark, Darkrai, and Drampa. And the weakness to grass is actually not that bad anymore. Vespiquen's going to be rotated out before we get this. Decidueye is nowhere near as good with Forest of Giant Plants being rotated and banned. And Lurantis, although so good in theory, continues to be underwhelming. The retreat cost to 4 is massive, but don't forget you can use Heavy Ball. And the 210 HP is standard, but I'm going to be honest, this is a bulky Pokemon. I was kinda hoping it might have 220 HP like a Alolan Muck, but it doesn't. Now, the first attack here for a fighting and 2 colourless does 60 damage plus Confusion. Now, we've all seen with Espeon GX how good Confusion can be, but the thing is, Espeon GX, you attach 1 Psychic Energy to an Eevee, immediately evolve, and then it's right there. This is a stage 1 that doesn't have a cheating evolution, and it's a fighting and a double colourless, so it's not quite as good, although you can use double colourless energy to help pay the attack cost here. Now, with a Choice Band, if you're hitting for weakness, this actually does 180. 60 plus 30 for Choice Band times 2 for weakness, which is enough to get a one-hit KO on Darkrai and Drampa, which is quite nice. But then again, if you really want to take down fighting weak Pokemon at the moment, we've got the Marshadow in Burning Shadows, which is going to be a great tech against anything weak to fighting, so I don't think you need Palossand for that. At the end of the day, this is a decent attack, but it's slightly overpriced. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. Confusion is annoying. 90 with a Choice Band is fine, but for free energy, it's a bit rubbish. The second attack ups the attack cost even more. 2 fighting, 2 colourless, you do 100 damage, but you heal 20, which is quite nice because the Sun and Moon Palossand also had a healing effect of one of its attacks as well. So we've got a little bit of synergy going on here. Apparently, these Palossand cards like to heal, and that's okay. As it stands, again, this is a decent attack, but it is slightly underwhelming. Healing 20 is less than you would heal with a potion, and if you don't use a Choice Band, you're not 2-hit KOing Stage 2 GXs or any Stage 1 GXs that have 210 HP and aren't weak. It is significantly worse than Tapu Koko GX, who is a basic GX, so can use Max Elixir, and can you actually use Raikou, the upcoming Pokemon in Shining Legends, which is going to help, and has got the ability to help get the energy. So, I mean, this is not a horrific attack, but free energy, including the double colourless for 100 and healing 20, is not particularly great. But the reason we love Palossand GX, and there is a reason we love Palossand GX, is the GX attack. It is a very unique GX attack, the likes of which we have not seen before, and the likes of which can bust a game completely wide open. Sandfear GX, for 2 fighting and 2 colourless, although again you've got double colourless. Look at the top 13 cards of your opponent's deck. Discard as many Pokemon you find as you like. You do 60 damage for each Pokemon you discarded, and the rest of the cards go back into your opponent's deck. Now, this is a great GX attack that does a whole bunch of stuff. First of all, if nothing else, you get to look at 13 cards in your opponent's deck. That is going to give you a lot of information about what your opponent's playing. You might see some one-off tech cards like 1 Max Potion, 1 Enhanced Hammer, etc. that will give you information that you need to carry on later into the game. But if we focus on the damage for the moment, if you hit 4 Pokemon in the top 13 cards, you're doing 240 damage. Now there are a couple of Pokemon that have 250 HP, but with a choice band you'll be getting a KO on them. To be honest, most of the time, 3 Pokemon's all you're going to need. 3 Pokemon does 180. At a choice band that does 210. The only Pokemon that will not one-hit KO are the Stage 2 GXs and a Lowland Muck, being the one Stage 1 GX has more than 210 HP. And a lot of the time you should be hitting 3 out of the top 13 cards of your opponent's deck. The problem is, this is an awful lot of energy. I know you can use double colourless, but this is still 4 energy. So just getting a big one-hit KO for 4 energy on a Stage 1 isn't enough. This has got to do something more. And it does, because you get to discard as many Pokemon there as you like. So what you could do here is potentially discard a whole bunch of Pokemon. We talked about Alolan Ninetales yesterday. What if you hit 3 or 4 Alolan Ninetales GX and get to discard all of them? What is your opponent going to use to attack? And then, of course, you can just use your other attacks to sweep and win the game. You are essentially looking at 1/4 of their deck here. Although 13 is a really weird number. It's a prime number, it's an odd number. I mean, 15 would be exactly 1/4 of their deck. 13 also has real connotations of being unlucky, which, to be honest, might be where this came from. It might be kind of a little bit of an in-joke. Ooh, unlucky 13. Now, of course, if you do discard all of their Pokemon, there are plenty of cards your opponent can use to get those Pokemon back. They can use Super Rod to get them back. They can use Brock's Grit to get them back. But it's not like you're going to use Palossand GX's GX attack and your opponent is instantly going to draw their Super Rod. They've got to make sure that these cards aren't in their prizes. They've got to have not discarded these cards already, and sometimes you've got to play a Sycamore in the early game and discard them. You've got no choice or you're going to lose. Maybe they're not prized, they're not discarded, they are in their deck, but they just don't draw into them fast enough. And then you can sweep with your second attack and win the game. Really here, ladies and gentlemen, if you use this GX attack and you hit enough of your opponent's Pokemon, you will win the game, unless they instantly draw their Brock's Grit or something like that. But even then, they're using Brock's Grit as their supporter for the turn and being put behind by a turn. So I do like this. You're getting a big one-hit KO and potentially wrecking their setup. But it is going to be an issue getting all the energy on there. I mean, really here, what you have to do is hit a Max Elixir onto a Sandygast turn 1 and attach to that Sandygast. And then turn 2, you need to play a double colourless energy, and that's how you get the 4 energy. And you'd better hope your opponent doesn't hit a Guzma and get the KO on the Sandygast while you've got the 2 energy on there. That is a little bit awkward. Though it is worth noting that Sandygast actually does have a very beneficial attack here. For 1 colourless energy, you can attach a fighting energy from your discard pile to Sandygast. At the beginning of your next turn, you've then got a Sandygast with 2 energy on. You attach a double colourless, you evolve, you're ready to go. The problem is, if you do that, your opponent doesn't even need a Guzma. They just need to be able to do 80 damage to wipe all your energy off the board. As fun as this looks, it's a little bit too risky for me. Now, you could use Carbink Break, but Carbink Break is a Stage 1 evolution, and that really is a little bit awkward here. It's a little bit of a shame, and remember, it blocks only EXs, not GXs, who are more widely played nowadays, so I don't think it's a great option. Although, speaking of great options, a couple of cards I could have mentioned earlier, but I'll mention them now. Brooklet Hill is obviously going to be a fun stadium to help you get those Sandygast out. And don't forget that you can always use strong energy for these attacks here. The reason I'm not mentioning strong energy, the reason I've left it till the end, is very simply, you are going to be using double colourless energy here. If you are going to get the 4 energy onto Palossand in order to get an early GX attack, and I really think that's the best way to play this, you want to be playing basic fighting. If you're playing double colourless and you're playing strong energy, you aren't going to be playing that many basic fighting energy. Good luck hitting them off a Max Elixir. So yes, I know you can use strong energy to try and buff up these attacks a little bit. Do remember it's a special energy, so things like Promo Jirachi, Drampa, Enhanced Hammer, etc. will feast on them. But honestly here, I think this is a way you've got to play Palossand GX. You've got to go max elixir, double colourless, because this is an early game GX attack. If your opponent has already set up and got all the Pokemon out the deck that they want, especially using something like a Alolan Vulpix's Beacon, well then, there's not many left in there. So even if you do get the big one-hit KO, you're getting the Pokemon they don't really want, and you're much less likely to do that. This has got to be an early game attack, ladies and gentlemen, because in the mid to late game, you're not going to hit enough Pokemon, and the Pokemon you do hit are going to be the Pokemon your opponent hasn't gotten out the deck yet, so they're going to be less important to them. The other thing we've got to remember here is that expensive attacks are a problem nowadays. Gardevoir GX is going to feast on your high attack cost, as will Espeon GX, and if anyone's playing them to attack, Oranguru and Yveltal. It's a slight issue. Although, as a fun side note here, if you are playing Palossand to get the early GX attack, that means you can then play Hala as a supporter, and it will be Hala good. Apparently I'm not bored of that pun yet, and I'm okay with this. Now, we do have other Palossands that you can combine this with. There's the one from Sun and Moon, which is fun but overpriced. And there's the one from Burning Shadows, which is fun but overpriced. I haven't done a video on that one, so do let me know if you really want one. Neither of them are great. So it's not like you've got other really great Pokemon to combine this with, in the same way that Alolan Muck GX has a really good Alolan Muck non-GX. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is Palossand GX. Overpriced attacks to be sure, but a really interesting GX attack that, if you can use it early enough, could be an awful lot of fun. But the 4 energy attack cost could be the thing that really makes it not viable. I'm going to give Palossand between 2 and 3 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies, that would be barbaric. With the important caveat that if at any time in the future we get a really good way to accelerate fighting energy from the first turn of the game, I think Palossand could be much, much better. Now tell me what you think about Palossand. There is a comment section. Go nuts, be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wassie, and Twitch for live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. And if you want to support the channel, and that'd be nice if you did, and you want some bonus podcasts, go and check out patreon.com/PTCGRadio. By far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.